What's up, everyone? Welcome to Open Mic with yours truly, Mike, myself. I am the Alumni and External Engagement Coordinator for the College of Law. The college has so many brilliant alumni with amazing stories, and we want to showcase them as much as we can. These days, we always talk about how we can affect change or how we can make a difference. Well, today, I have someone here who, in the time of so much change, so much uncertainty, so much anxiety, has actually done something to try and make a tangible difference to society. He's one of the co-founders of the app Crisis Heroes, Nic Hoban. Nic, glad to have you join us today.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Nic, so just to begin with, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, including your current role, and what motivates you in this role?
Sure, yeah. I'm the co-founder of Wicked Sites. So that's a web development agency in Melbourne. We're primarily focused on small business clients. So we've been doing that for about a year now. And just recently, I co-founded another venture called Crisis Heroes. So Crisis Heroes is essentially a platform that we've built for COVID-19, and is designed to really help the vulnerable during this time. But it also applies to really any crises. So we're hoping, if there are other crises that come along, there sort of unfortunately always is another crisis. We can help with those as well.
Cool. What was sort of the motive? Like, from what I understand, Crisis Heroes was launched just in time, or just a little bit after COVID hit. What was kind of the motivation behind it, and how did that process go from idea to reality? Noting that everything seemed to happen so fast for everyone, and what was your role in that process?
Yeah, sure. It's a little bit of a funny one. My co-founder of Wicked Sites, Matt, he was over in the US at the time that the whole sort of lockdown started to happen, and so he was forced into isolation as he came home for the 2-week mandatory period. And we just got talking, while he was sort of in isolation, and we got sort of brainstorming about how we could help people during the lockdown. Matt was kind of fortunate that he had a friend who was in the building who could bring in supplies and things like that. But, we started to think that there are probably a lot of other people out there, immunosuppressed or elderly, that may not be able to get that access to people to help them during that time. So very quickly, within 5 days, we sort of conceptualized and built this very primitive version of the platform, which was simply that you could offer yourself and your services, which could be just to do a friendly phone call with someone, or an online chat, or go out and grab some groceries for somebody. And so you create an offer on the platform, or you can be somebody who creates a request for help. So just a very simple two-sided marketplace that we've now expanded on as we've moved forward over the last sort of 6 weeks.
That's really cool. And is the app available just in Australia, or is it available everywhere in the world too? Or
well, it's a global initiative at the moment, so you can really come from anywhere. So we've had people sign up from Hungary, and we've actually had a gentleman. We've got this our flyer on the platform, which you can download as a PDF and print it and sort of spread the word. So we've had a gentleman in Hungary actually do that and spread it, hand it out to his neighbors, do a letterbox drop. So it's been amazing to see, even people overseas do that. But primarily, the majority of our members are in Australia, and we have over 1,600 volunteers that have signed up in the last 6 to 7 weeks. So it's been an overwhelming response for that sort of time period.
Wow, that's a pretty good uptake for a relatively short period of time, right? 6 to 7 weeks, like you said, and it's 1,600 people signing up to be volunteers. that's actually really good to know that there's a lot of people out there who care and who are more than willing to give some of their time and some of their resources to do this. Now, I was wondering, just out of curiosity, have you ever kind of like, obviously given your background working with wicked sites and all that, were you in the business of kind of developing apps such as this before you did Crisis Heroes?
Yeah, so prior to establishing Wicked Sites, I got involved in startups. So this was about 4 or 5 years ago. I was over in Spain helping out a friend who was organizing a startup event there. And I really had no idea about this, world of startups and this ecosystem before, but quickly got thrown into it. And I then went on to also help at a startup event in Finland, which is a giant event attracting over 20,000 people every year. So I had a lot to do with startups during my time there as well. And I learned a lot about, the whole startup ecosystem, and then started to work on my own, which was a startup called Studychatr. So that was a platform which I launched a couple of years ago. We got a few thousand people on it. It was, sort of moderately used. And the idea behind the platform was it was a student engagement platform that also assisted with job opportunities. And I took a lot of lessons from that in now founding Crisis Heroes sites too.
Cool. Yeah, that's really amazing. Now, I just want to take you back a little bit. You did a GDLP and a Master of Law at ANU. How was the ANU experience like for you, and how did studying those, how did studying law at ANU kind of shape your experience and your views on social justice, given that you're the work that you're into now and developing these apps? Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I loved my time at ANU. It was great. A lot of it I actually studied online, and part of that was that I did the GDLP program, which is the Graduate Diploma of Legal Practice after my legal degree. And as a part of that, I actually did an internship in The Hague in the Netherlands at the UN, which was at the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. And so I worked for the Office of the Prosecutor, and that was just an incredible experience, just dealing with the conflict that, although it happened quite a long time ago, it's, we're still, dealing with that conflict and sort of the justice, elements of that as well. And I think that, look, it gave me a greater appreciation and awareness of social justice, and that it's very, very important to have this sort of equal access to opportunity and social justice. And some of the people that were affected by that conflict at that time may not have had that access to justice, and it was only sort of because of the tribunal that they were able to eventually sort of get that. So yeah, it was an amazing experience, and I never would have had that had I not sort of had access to the GDLP program and that kind of thing.
You mentioned that you did most of your work online and remotely. Did you ever get the chance to come and visit campus and see ANU and Canberra in general, or?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. I did one subject on campus there, and yeah, got to experience the campus and sort of loved it. I sort of wished I could have been there in person the whole time, because it's such a fantastic campus. But and the quality of the lecturers and stuff is phenomenal. I've been to other universities as well, and I thought it was sort of very, very top tier, and I felt privileged to sort of be a part of it. So yeah, it was great.
There's I don't know when you last visited, but I don't know if you're aware, and I don't know if you're aware, but there's like a heap of changes now at ANU. They've built up a whole new section called Cambry, which is a very modern kind of meeting space between like There's like student accommodation, there's study areas, and there's retail spaces, which is really cool. So, anytime you come and visit Canberra, just hit us up, and I'd love to take you out for coffee and show you campus a little bit.
That'll be
Yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that.
I was wondering also, you currently your work, a lot of the things that you do now is more of IT centric. Have you always been in IT, and how did you kind of like get that, I guess, that kind of inclination to do a law degree?
Mm. Yeah, it's a good question because it seems unrelated to what I studied, but I'd sort of always had this innate interest toward technology and sort of scalable solutions. And, part of what I studied during my master's was intellectual property law. So I got a great insight into what's involved in, protecting yourself, your IP, and that kind of thing. And I think I was always interested in sort of development and creating my own business and working on projects. And so I think when I became involved in these startup events and saw how passionate these founders were about what they were working on, I sort of got pulled in that direction and knew that that was what I wanted to do, backed by my legal degrees and experience, and and understanding that and how to lead teams and solving problems. So I think that's why I was sort of pulled in that direction rather than going the sort of traditional route. Just the kind of person I was, I guess, and what I wanted to achieve, with my life.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. Now I want to take it back to the Crisis Heroes platform.
Yep.
You know, we've experienced quite a bit, like here in Australia, at least, we've experienced quite a bit of crisis in the past. I guess past half a year, right? Like we went from the
Mm,
bushfires, and over here in Canberra we had like hail, and then now we're
yeah.
rolling over into COVID. In the post-pandemic world, how do you see the app evolving, and how do you see it I guess keeping its contribution to those who are in need?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as I said earlier, unfortunately, there will always be another crisis. And I hope that this can remain relevant in that sense, that people will have this access to, people who are close by. So we sort of geographically, we're a location-based platform, so people can search within a sort of 20-kilometer radius, or really you can customize that to as larger or smaller radius as you like. But being able to sort of get that instant access to help, that's one thing that we would love to, continue offering to people. But the other side of things, I guess, is and the way we can remain relevant, in between these crises, is that we can connect with volunteer groups. So we're now sort of experimenting with a groups function, which allows volunteer groups to essentially recruit volunteers through Crisis Heroes. So we're looking at making life easier for volunteer organisations by giving them access to, I guess, vetted volunteers. So that's one thing we're sort of working on with some volunteer organisations at the moment, and hopefully the way we're able to stick around moving forward. The other thing we're sort of looking at is also assisting with mental health. We know that a lot of people are going to feel the ramifications of the lockdown, and a lot of people are affected financially. So we hope that although there will be an increase in sort of mental health issues, that we might be able to also assist there through just an online chat or an online phone call. People will be able to connect with people that understand what they're going through. So that's also something we're trying to help with.
That's really cool, Nick. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with the app, are you able to give a quick example of kind of how it works and what happens when
Yep.
you sign up for it?
Yeah, sure. So it's really easy to sign up. We don't yet have an iOS or an Android app yet, but it is a web app, meaning that it's a website and a web platform. So you just go to www.crisisheroes.com. You just sign up, just create an account, and when you've created that account, you can create a request for help or list yourself as someone who can offer to help, and you can just select some predefined categories, which are like, just pick up the groceries or walk a dog or, just a friendly phone call. You can also select other and then custom, write whatever you like to help with or whatever you need. So once you've completed that step, people are able to find those requests or those offers and engage with you. So it's pretty simple in that sense.
That's really cool. I imagine the way I envision the app, I think it would be really, I guess, very useful, especially for those who are maybe in remote and rural areas. Like those a little bit more isolated than normal than the rest of society, right? Can you give us an insight into what the demographic is like, or the geographical locations of like the people who have signed up? Like, if you could give like maybe a rough split of like rural, urban region signups to it.
Yeah, signed up have been sort of within the 20 to 60-year-old range in terms of age range, and so yeah, one case study I guess we can talk about is a nurse who was in the northwest of Tasmania, and she was forced into isolation, and she just put on a request. She was kind of craving peanut butter, so she put on a request for someone to hopefully drop off some peanut butter. And she had about 3 people offer to help, and one ended up bringing her the peanut butter, but not just the peanut butter, but also a bunch of flowers and chocolates and all this kind of thing. So that was really great. But yeah, in terms of like regional, look, we've had people kind of sign up from everywhere, regional and inner city, but the majority have probably been inner city at the moment. Yeah.
Right. That's I like the peanut butter story because I'm a big fan of peanut butter as well. And if I were ever isolated, I would definitely go on that platform and be like, can someone get me some peanut butter, please? I love myself some peanut
Oh, that's
butter.
great.
So yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah,
That's really
me
cool.
too. Me too.
Yeah. I guess I'd like to kind of end on this. What advice would you give students who are, at the moment, they're likely entering a very different landscape once they've finished with university? It's going to be a different world. Whether or not we want to admit it, it's going to change. This whole pandemic will have an effect, and the lasting effect likely on society. How do you think, first of all, what kind of advice would you give to them once they're finished with uni? And how do you think they can stand out and make a difference?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good question, because no doubt things are going to not, there will be a new normal, I guess, moving forward, and it's a giant curveball to be thrown, possibly if you're in your final year of studies and looking to the workforce next year. But yeah, I think you should think outside the box and not necessarily have in your head the idea that you need to go down a certain path. I mean, the world is full of opportunity, and if you ally yourself with the right people, I think, for example, what we've done with Crisis Heroes, I couldn't do it by myself. I have 2 other guys who are super passionate about the cause as well, and teaming up with them is what made it possible. It wasn't just me. And I think if you can look to your peers and maybe some talented complementary people, perhaps you can create something as well, and maybe move in a slightly different direction to what you had planned. But anything is really possible with the right people. So I would probably tell people, don't be afraid to sort of try something different, and keep your options open in that sense too.
Cool. Well, Nic, thank you so much for your time. Really insightful. The platform that you've done is really cool, and I think it's really really good. Like, it's such a good initiative. I think especially like these days where we're experiencing so many changes, right? And I wish you guys nothing but the best in developing, and furthering the development of Crisis Heroes. And yeah, it's been fun chatting to you.
Thanks so much, Mike.
I wish you all the best.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Cool.
Really appreciate it.